So we're into the final few episodes of FM22 Mercenary, and whisper it softly, but we might be in with a shout of doing something. So let me come clear absolutely straight away. I have got this club knocked out of the Champions League. It was a semi-informed decision to do so. I've played a rotated squad in all of our Champions League games. Bar one, we went into a game against Betis really needing a victory to have any hope of progressing, so I played a semi-strong squad, but that didn't stop us going a goal down. But the boys managed to get us back level before half-time with a goal through Strawberry Daiquiri, and Vinya, deputising in at left-back, managed to get us the winner, so we stole a 2-1 victory. We suffered another defeat at the hands of Manchester United in our next game, but not until we'd taken the lead and at least given them a fright. But we were set up for a final game against our old club Leverkusen, where the winner would come second in the group behind Man United. Despite what was at stake, I decided to field a completely second-choice 11, a side that was not strong enough for Leverkusen on the night. The team we fielded actually gave quite a good account of themselves. Only Cherafalini and Nelson in defence have played any first-team football really this season, and a couple of the players that we brought in were 18-year-olds that were actually making their debut for the club in a game that if we'd have won, we could have progressed in second place in the group behind Manchester United. And we tried not to bring any of the big hitters off the bench because we wanted to keep them fresh for Serie A, but it meant that we finished third in the group rather than fourth. The gamble that I took against Leverkusen was also slightly informed by the fact that Betis could also have finished above us and we would have been bottom of the group. But they were playing Manchester United, and I gambled on Manchester United being able to beat them. In the end, they only did so 2-1 as Betis mounted a comeback in stoppage time in their game, but it meant that by finishing third, we drop into the Europa League, which the board are none too pleased about, I'll be honest. But I think that competition gives us the opportunity to go deeper in Europe than the knockout stages of the Champions League would have, and it's also allowed us to play Serie A games with a somewhat refreshed squad, although with the number of players that we have that are actually first-team level, even that's been difficult. So brace yourselves because we are top of the Serie A table, not quite halfway through the season, although we've just returned from the winter break. A much-needed rest for the players as well, as we had a couple of nasty injuries that players have since recovered from. We also had our medical staff advising us that a number of the squad needed to be taken out for a rest. We're 3 points clear of AC Milan. Juventus and Inter have both stuttered a little bit, particularly Internazionale, although Inter have just beaten Milan in a derby to mean that we are 3 points clear of our closest challengers. I did not expect to be top of the table, as our squad probably isn't good enough to be flying so high so early in the season. I do fear we might fall away, but let's guide you through our form, where despite being undefeated so far in the league, I'm actually a little disappointed because we're winning the big games, we're beating the top teams, and then we're throwing away points against teams towards the bottom of the table, which is worrying because we've brought you back for a game against Lecce today, who are rooted to the foot of Serie A, and we follow that up with a game in a week's time against Spezia, the team just one place above them. So we need to start performing better against these teams that are setting up with low blocks and bringing lots of men back, because against the big teams, we're managing to sniff out the wins. You saw us in the last episode winning 5-4 against Roma. That was an epic. We then had that Betis game that we beat them in the Champions League before a game against Genoa was next up. Genoa didn't register a single shot on target during this match, and they also had a player sent off after 30 minutes, and we took the lead shortly afterwards. After Alexi had found the opening goal for us, he then sprayed a pass through to Strawberry Daiquiri, and a 2-0 win was completed. We were also dominant in our next game, where we kept another clean sheet, and goals from Reska got us underway as we completed a 3-0 victory. But games like our next one against Cagliari were frustrating. We drew 0-0 despite dominating the XG, although we were a little open on the break and Cagliari had some chances of their own, but Nelson was sent off towards the end when we were throwing the kitchen sink at them. And more worryingly, we also lost right-back Pembele to injury in this game, and he has not appeared for us since, and he's still our top average rating and top assist maker even though he's missed a number of games. So we couldn't find a way through against Cagliari, but we managed to score 3 times against Inter in a game that was top versus second at the time. A Musella goal meant that we took the lead, but Raspadori dragged Inter back into it before half-time. Inter scored an own goal, but then equalised to make it 2-2, but then after 82 minutes, Dackery nodded home the winner. And we had our second big win in a week as we took on Napoli and were victorious 3-2 again. We went 2-0 up. After Musella's opening goal, Milenkovic nodded home from a corner. But Napoli dragged one back after 30 minutes, and they were level on 41 as Zabelos placed the ball into the corner of the net. But our winner came in the second half and from an unlikely source as Jurendic struck from outside of the box. After back-to-back 3-2 games, we were pleased and grateful to keep a clean sheet as Dackery's goal was enough for us to beat Bologna 1-0. And in our most recent game, we were the walking wounded, just hanging on there for the boys to go on holiday. And we went a goal down. But despite the players running on empty, they managed to drag themselves back into the game in the second half, and we managed to keep our unbeaten season going. So the good news is that we're top, and the other good news is that every time we've played one of the big sides, we've managed to beat them. But we are very cautious because the squad is thin, the squad was getting very tired before the break, and they will get that way again. And each time we're coming up against one of these teams towards the foot of the table, we're really struggling to break them down, and I'm thinking about introducing a new tactic for the second half of the season. So this tactic may look familiar because it's exactly the same as the one we were using at Leverkusen towards the end of our time there. The 4-3-3 is still being trained and may still be our go-to tactic. But when we've been using it against teams towards the bottom of the table, it's been struggling to find the breakthrough, and I'm hoping that bringing these 3 attacking players centrally, as well as having support from a central midfielder and from out wide, it will allow us to make a greater number of chances and have more men in the box. The reason why I originally started dabbling with this tactic at Lazio was due to the injury to Pembele. He's been superb so far this season, 7 assists and a goal in 13 appearances, but when he got injured, we didn't really have any backup at right back. The only other player that we had that could have deputised in there was a player whose tackling is 6 and his marking is 6 and his positioning, you guessed it, is 6. So by switching to a back 5, for a few games I actually utilised Riccardo Musella as a left back. Now granted, his tackling and marking are no great shakes either. His positioning is marginally better, but being an all-round better athlete and having superior mentals meant that he deputised pretty well as an emergency right wing back. But now that we've got Pembele back, I think we can switch Musella to a more attacking role and still play the back 5 and bring Reska as a more defensive-minded centre-half rather than sitting in front of the defence as a defensive midfielder on support. We will see during the early part of this game whether it is suitable enough against these smaller sides, but trust me, the 4-3-3 wasn't working against them, as you can see from the number of draws we've picked up against clubs towards the bottom. And I don't think there's going to be many teams that will face this season that are going to set up more defensively against us than Lecce. Lecce may be at the foot of the table, but do not be fooled. Andreas Tamaccioni's side have got some decent players in their ranks. Striker Alessio Rosa would be getting game time if he played for us. At 6'8", Isaac Torre will be a threat from set pieces. And Noel Lopez looks like he could give our fullbacks a torrid time. Lecce had a strong second half to last season to avoid relegation, and today they'll be looking to kickstart their season as Lecce take on Lazio. So the good news is we've at least almost got a fully fit squad. Alexi, our striker, was the other player that picked up a nasty injury towards Christmas time. He missed a number of games and he was our best striker, so he was a miss for us. He's fit enough to be back on the bench today, but not to start. But now that we're playing 2 players up front, I think a role will be made for him as soon as he's fit enough. Dackery has raced through early on. I think the 6'8" centre-half that we highlighted has clobbered him down in the box. I'm not sure Dackery was going anywhere productive, so we'll take the penalty. But can we convert it? Dackery runs after the ball himself. He's been a bit hit and miss this season. Sometimes he's looked great, and then he's thrown in some poor performances. Maybe switching him to a striker will help get the best out of him as he runs up to face the Lecce keeper. And he plays a very soft penalty that the keeper palms wide of the post. Goodness me, we do let these smaller teams off the hook. And Milinkovic as a header to try and atone for the penalty from Daiquiri, but the keeper saves that as well. What a chance to take the lead that was. We have another corner and Marcella's bundled home the ball. This one could be very touch and go for offside, even with only 10 minutes played. I'm very fearful that this is going to be one of those days, a missed penalty and a disallowed goal. No, not a disallowed goal. It's been awarded. I thought he was miles offside, but maybe his movement was better than I credit him for, because he's ghosted in at the far post and put us into a 1-0 lead. But now Lecce, well, they've struck the post from their own corner. That is a warning shot. We'd only been in the lead for about 40 seconds, and Lecce nearly came storming back. We're coming forward once more. We've got the ball to Dembele, and he's put in a pass to Marcella. He should have taken that opportunity, but unfortunately their keeper was lively once more. We've been pretty dominant in this first half, worthy of a second goal, I would say, but still just 1-0 in the lead. We do struggle to kill teams off, and sometimes we let them back into the game, even though they may only have had 1 or 2 chances during the match. We've managed to win the ball back in central areas. Reska's got it at the back. He's a pretty good centre-half, I think. He prefers to play in midfield, but he gives us a little bit of pace because the players that are playing at centre-back with him are deep into their 30s. We're going to have another VAR review. Pembele shows how important he is as the outlet for us down the right, and Daiquiri shows that he might be able to make up for that penalty miss with a goal in the first half. Pembele plays a nice little ball through to him here. He's dallying a little bit, but he beats his man and then slings in a low cross. It's a smart finish by Daiquiri. Does better from 7 yards than he does from the penalty spot. This was a close one for the offside call, but we're now 2-0 up. Can we get to half-time with a clean sheet? Well, maybe not, because Lecce have the ball and they are bringing it down our left-hand side pretty unchallenged, and they've managed to get a cross into the box and they're picking up the second balls as well. This one's a deep one. Gaia way too small to win a header at the far post. And we have been masters of almost our own downfall there, as we can't clear the ball. We hit it against the back of one of our own defenders' heads and they clip the post and it goes behind, and they're still not finished. They're coming forward once more, and there is that 6'8" centre-half, showing how powerful he can be in the air. We've got the ball out with Pembele now. I think we might switch from our attacking mentality down to balance in order to try and manage the game soon. Could we be 3-0 up when we do? Well, we can't, because Marcella has taken an easy chance and slid it wide of the post. Now we've got a throw in. Pembele's involved again. And Zakarian's a player we definitely want to get more out of during the second half of this season. Our most highly valued player. He was in and out of the side with fitness issues during the first half of the campaign. And when he was playing, he wasn't the most productive midfielder we had. We'd like to try and get more out of him. He's been bundled over in the box. Marcella has had another chance from time for a couple of changes, I think. Both of them at wing back. First of all, Jose Gaia, who's been booked. And he's playing abysmally, unfortunately, this afternoon. So we're going to bring on the young whippersnapper, Mateus Vinha, in his place. He's only 35, far younger than the man that he's going to be replacing, as Jose Gaia is 37 and staring his 38th birthday in the face before the end of the season. And the other change we're going to make is that I don't think we want to test Pembele too much, given that he's so important to us and has been out for a while with an injury. So instead, we're going to bring in Alexi, who, of course, cannot play right full-back, but Marcella can. And I think maybe moving him further back down the pitch and letting chances fall to a player who might take them might be a good idea. We've also brought the mentality and the tempo down just a little to try and manage the game better during this last 20 minutes or so. We've had 16 shots, 10 of them on target. The penalty means that our XG is 3.29, but we've given the ball away to Lecce, and they've returned it straight to us. Marcella as a wing-back now, making some progress down the right flank. Rodriguez gets the ball back to Marcella, and Zakarian, the player we wanted to see more of, has had a shot. Another effort that we've had from pretty close to the goal. And again, we've not managed to score it. Milenkovic now rises for the header. He's 6'5", so he is a threat in the box, but he nods it over the bar. And I think it's about time for us to make our final substitution. I think we're going to have to settle for 2-0 at best here. but it might mean that we're stretching our lead at the top of the table. I've just glanced at it, and we seem to be 5 points clear of the team in second place, so it may be that either our rivals are not playing at the same time as us, or it might mean that they're dropping points. We will check that out shortly. Let's pause the game. We've got Inter being 1-0 down to Fiorentina and Milan being held by Napoli. They were a goal down in that game and they've pulled it back to 1-1. If those results could stay the same, we can see Juventus are going to leapfrog both of them into second place, but we would be 5 points clear at the top. I think it's going to be more important for those results to stay the same than our own to stay at 2-0. Hopefully both those things can happen. Glance down at the scores. I didn't see any changes. Let's see what the table's looking like. Okay, nobody panic, but after 18 games, we are 5 points clear. We still haven't been beaten in the league, and we're setting up an epic ending to FM22 Mercenary. Either you are going to see us march triumphantly towards an unlikely Scudetto, or you're going to see us capitulate and fall apart. Either way, I think it will be good viewing.